Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of Referrals Podcast. You're like, Michael, you always say they're amazing. And you know what? They are, aren't they? I mean, seriously, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on any podcast, you're like, you know what? Maher was right. It's amazing. Well, today I have an especially amazing topic and guest with us today. I cannot wait to introduce him to you. And for many of you, it won't be an introduction. You know this icon. But let me ask you a question. What is this untold secret that top producers won't tell you that has made them a top producer? And the reason they don't tell you might be they don't even realize the impact it had on their business and their life. Think about that for a second. There is this untold secret that top producers aren't telling you ever. You'll never hear this on a panel. You'll never hear this from a speaker on the front stage. Because here's the thing. They don't realize the impact that this secret had on their business and their lives until they really unpack it and they talk about it. And that's what we're going to do in today's session is we're going to reveal that secret. That is really the secret behind the secret. And we're going to show you what can make a huge impact in your business and life like it has myself. Now, we always do a shout out in the beginning. I want to give a shout out to Gary Keller today. Gary Keller said, master the generosity game and you can build a powerful referral-based business. The good news is that anyone can do it. Put the wisdom of the referral mastery system and Michael J. Maher into practice and you can succeed at a higher level. Gary Keller, thank you. Gary is the co-founder and chairman of the board at Keller Williams Realty International. A huge impact on me, one of my mentors, one of my coaches, and I appreciate what he says there. Thank you so much. And you know, the next thing is listen, I always follow that with a call to action. My call to action today is go to rms25.com. Check out Referral Mastery Summit. We are doing it March 27th through the 29th in Atlanta, direct flight from anywhere in the country. Lots of amazing things that happening that weekend in Atlanta anyway. But here's the thing. You're going to want to come and mix with like-minded people who build their businesses based on referrals. Well, what does that lead to? Outgoing referrals to you if you meet with them, like Nicole Aldaz, who met Toril Schofer White. Toril has referred her at least 25 referrals for buyers and relocating people in Nicole City. That's just one example of the many and one reason out of the many for you to attend it. Now, the other thing too is you're going to get 2 52-week plans on how to maximize your referrals. You're going to get a ton of other strategies that are literally, some of you are going to walk out of that event with referrals in your hand. Powerful. That's the Referral Mastery Summit. Check it out at rms25.com. And speaking of referrals, I have here today one of the most referable people on the planet. This guy, I trust implicitly. I don't trust anybody implicitly. I'm not even sure if I trust my wife. Okay, that may be stretching a little bit. I do trust her like 99%. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise. Listen, I think everybody has their limits. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. This guy, I trust him. In fact, I just invested in a large multifamily property with him. And basically he said, hey, you want to be involved in this? And I said, yes. I didn't even know how much. I didn't know where the property was. I didn't know the specs. I literally just said, yeah, I'm in, and sent him a 6-figure check. Here you go. Have fun with this. So he bought a jet. I'm just kidding. No, we got a multifamily. He did buy a jet, but that was probably a separate financial transaction. At least I'm hoping so. But who we have here today is an icon in the real estate industry. He's rapidly become an icon in the entrepreneurial space as well as the multifamily space. Jay Kinder, welcome to Referrals Podcast.
Man, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, my friend. I appreciate the accolades and the fact that you trust me. I think that says a lot. So it really means a lot to me, my friend. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's not too many people that you trust with just a six-figure check and you just send it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, but yeah, it's one of those, well, and it actually got me to thinking about like, why would, I mean, it's like, the trust factor is super high. And it's like, man, you must be really competent. You must have really high character. And we must have communicated at some point at a high level during our life, because the three C's of referability are character, competence, and communication. And guess what? Those are all true. I met you at a conference. I met you in Austin during a KW Mega Camp conference. And, from there, the rest is history with our relationship. So I think the big thing is all right, there's like 4 people that are brand new realtors who don't know who you are. So talk about a little bit about starting in, of all places in the, this isn't a guy from San Diego or Miami it's Lawton, Oklahoma, right? So it's like, all right, tell me about like your start in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So, I got licensed prior to selling real estate. I was mowing my dad's rental properties and had an experience there that opened up my mind to there's got to be a better way. And
I got to hear that. Wait a second. You're mowing lawns.
Yeah.
Right.
So my dad would give me the yards where people moved out, and there was a locked gate. Grass was as tall as me, and I'm in the back, and it's in a neighborhood that I normally wouldn't want to be seen in.
Oh, geez.
And I was weed eating, and I hit the biggest pile of dog crap you've ever seen.
Oh, no.
And I was gritting my teeth just like this, and it went all over me. And in that very moment, at like 6 o'clock in the morning, I was like, okay, this ain't for me, man. Something's got to change. And it may not have gone exactly in this order, but it felt like the next week when I was getting my $400 check for mowing yards, one of the agents in my dad's office, he just bought a Coldwell Banker. He did property management my whole life, so I didn't really know the sales side of it, but he bought a Coldwell Banker, and I had a bunch of agents, and this guy was getting a check for like $5,000. And he didn't look like he had any crap in his teeth or anything. So I said, well, what did Rusty over here do? Like, he didn't look like he had a bad day at all. And so I got, my dad told me a little bit about, yeah, he sold this house, whatever. I was like, he sold one house and he got paid that much. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, tell me more about how to do that. So, I got licensed. I was 19 when I got licensed, and had no idea what I was getting into. I tried everything. Struggled probably like most people do when you first get in the business. I think most of my sphere of influence at that time was probably still doing kickstands in college. Yeah. So there's not a lot of people that I knew and had built relationships with at that time that were going to buy or sell with me. And so, I just, had to figure it out. I think, when they give you your real estate license, they should also give you a plaque, with just the words "figure it out," because that's what it feels like when you get licensed. And had a little bit of early success. I was willing to do any deal. People that wouldn't take a listing. I'll take that listing. I'll take any listing. Any client. Ended up doing 22 deals my first year. Average sale price was probably around 50,000 because I was taking the bank REOs. I would take anything, and continued to you have that one little success doing something, and then it's like, okay, that worked. I wanted, I'm going to try that again. And so I did a ton of open houses. Anybody that would let me hold one open, I did one every Sunday. Back then, nobody in our market ever did them on any day but Sunday, so I didn't know any different to try anything. Right. So I did them every Sunday, probably for 3 years. I mean, I met everybody in town probably just from open houses doing that. And then little events would come along, and the first thing that came along was a training, and it was a guy that came to town, and it was Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie training, and my dad had gone through it. So the guy comes in, he goes through all his past clients and sees who they might know. And I just happened to be standing up front. My dad said, "You want to do it?" I was like, "I don't know. I'll try it. Yeah, let's do it." So I went to Dale Carnegie, and they made me the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life.
Amen.
Doing things that I probably at that age just, was never have been comfortable doing, and speaking in front of people and things like that. And that was probably like a real turning point for me. Shortly after that, another, it's funny how real estate offices, man, somebody's always coming in selling something. And
Yes.
the next guy that comes along is a guy by the name of Bruce Tanner, had
Hmm.
long white hair. And he had a sales institute, and he would come in. It was an 8-week program, very similar to how Dale Carnegie's was. And back then they had sweat hogs and all these different things, and that was Century 21 thing or whatever. But this training I went through was really valuable at the time. Having a seller counseling interview and a buyer counseling, like none of those tools were. Nobody had created that kind of stuff to give to people. And so and then another guy came along, and it was Roger Butcher, and he was in Norman, Oklahoma. And I went to his event, and I don't even remember if it cost anything to go. Of course, I bought on a credit card everything that they would sell me. And in that particular event, I had learned about a FSBO, and I was like, "What is a FSBO?" And he explained it, and kind of why to go after him and this, that, and the other. And I called my dad at the break, and I was like, "You mean to tell me there's people that put signs in their yards that want to sell their house, and they don't even have a real estate agent, and nobody calls them?" And he's like, "Yeah, oh yeah." And I was like, so I think I'm about to get rich, right? And I start calling every FSBO, and they all shut me down. And so, but I walked out of that with something that was powerful, and that was his concept. He had this little thing that it says sold on one side, and it says real estate counselor on the other, but he had a 30-day marketing plan, and I didn't have anything to say of any value. Why would you hire me in the first place? So I just started using that and started calling FSBOs and anybody expireds. I tried everything, and one day FSBO said yes, and I was like, what?
It worked.
People were like, God, this is amazing. So I took that listing and I was like, that's the game. I've got it now. So it gave me just enough a little belief into all this work I've been doing. And it feels like I tried everything all through the, anything you could do. And, we go to like a Coldwell Banker event. I'd go to all the classes and I'd write down all these notes, and then I'd come back and try stuff. And then my dad would say, that's illegal in Oklahoma. You can't do that. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I tried a lot of everything, and looking back, it's like, man, it certainly wasn't a straight line, to success. That's for sure. And I probably couldn't even tell you what exactly were the things that worked versus didn't, because I was doing so many things. Open houses definitely was a pillar that early on was producing for me. FSBOs expireds eventually became a good sized pillar. Obviously, referral business and just from making connections and over a little bit of time, of being doing it and people finally taking me serious because I was just a kid.
Well, I love that. And so let's talk like the trajectory, right? So you started with Caldwell Banker, I'm assuming, because okay. And that was a proximity win, right? You just happened to be next to an office, and Caldwell Banker was there. So I started with
My dad bought the Caldwell Banker franchise the year that I graduated high school. So he was independent property management, and then he bought this Caldwell Banker that was right next door. And that really, I mean, it wasn't even on my radar to get into real estate, just because my dad was doing property management. I was like, I don't have any properties to manage. I don't know how I would do that. So it really wasn't even really ever a discussion. And that's how I got into that.
Okay, so Caldwell Banker, and you did like 22 the first year, and then so tell me about like the trajectory, the second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, and were you with Caldwell Banker your entire career until EXP?
No. So I went independent eventually. That's a whole nother story, because my dad's exit strategy was to sell that company to me. But
Oops.
So I went to 22 to 39 to 71 to like 130 or 110, something like that, to 233 to 366 or 368, and then 367 the next year. Lots of systems and processes that were missing, people hiring, learning, all this kind of stuff. So I had a year of putting better systems and processes and people in place. And I don't remember, 400 and something, and then 533, and then it hovered in the 500s and upper 400s and 500s for probably another 7 or 8 years while I was active there. So
right, and number one with Caldwell Banker, right?
Number two in the world.
I am very sorry. I just said that. It's no hard feelings there. Damn it.
Well, so, what's even better about this story is I was number two in the world for Caldwell Banker, number two in my market. So I competed against a Max team, in Lawton, Oklahoma, of all places.
Yeah. Wow.
Team that sold 750 homes a year. So,
Wow.
not only am I number 2 there in the world, where I never got to number 1, and this always joke with Brian Moses, because Brian Moses was number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker and never made it to number 1. And
Wow.
the same person beat both of us forever. Still probably beating everybody. Jean Shine out of Killeen, Texas. Love her.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Visited her office, learned a lot from her. She's great. But being number 2 in my own market was a very sore spot for me. But I had a really tough competitor that I had to learn how to compete against, and it's really what sharpened my sword and skill set, because they would cut their commission to 4% if they were competing against me. They were really tough, and so that it was a blessing in disguise. But yeah, it was a really good run of just continuous growth. Which is fascinating still to me to this day, how, if you do the right things in the right order, how you could really build this thing, to be really big. But yeah,
I think a big thing on that too is just being number 2 drives you.
Oh yeah.
If you had been number 1 in the market, you might have slacked off. You might have not learned as much. You might have not been as driven, and you might not have met a lot of the people that you met later on.
True.
because you were driving. And the example, like we're talking a lot about your trajectory, and my a lot of people already know my trajectory, but it's those events along the way that have been these catalysts for us to go to the next level. And I'm not going to bury the lead necessarily here with this podcast is listen, I said in the beginning, what is that untold secret that top producers don't tell you? And maybe the reason they're not telling you is because they don't even realize the impact it had on them. It is events. It is going out of town and going to an event. And it's like, that's a difference maker. From my history, is I got it from the coaching world. I was a teacher and a coach. And when I was football coaching, which was my true passion, teaching was like a secondary passion. I really wanted to teach so I could coach. And what they do in football, basketball, and baseball at the high school level is you go to clinics where the college and literally you're shaking hands with pro coaches, fist bumping and drinking beer with college coaches who you see on TV every weekend. And they're literally, here's my playbook. Here's what I do. And like, okay. And then you went back and you took what kind of aligned with your players and you would use it. Well, when I got into real estate, the first thing I looked for was the clinic. Where's the conference? Where's the place to learn? And that's what really set me on. Is literally I joined Coldwell Banker 2 weeks later. I hadn't even done a transaction. I was at Coldwell Banker International in Orlando, Florida, right? And so then, like a few weeks after that, I'm at a Joe Stump event, and a few weeks after that, I'm at Star Power. And this is even before I'm doing any transactions. And you're like, well, how'd you pay for it? I put it on a credit card. But what I knew is that if I invested a little bit up front, I believe in delayed gratification, right? If I invested a little, well, the rest, so to speak, is history. Is you go like your year that you went from 133 to 235, right? What I think is, man, you went to a couple great conferences that year.
100%.
You talk all the time about systems and processes. We both like systems and processes to the world. They're like, that's not sexy. You and I both know that systems and processes are the sexiest thing in the world. Well, where did we learn them? For the most part, we didn't learn them on a Zoom. We didn't learn them from a GoToWebinar. We learned them at a conference, and then we went back and implemented them. So I think keep kind of going down that line. Is what were some of the big conferences that you went to, and that propelled you? And I also want to make sure everybody remembers throughout this entire conversation that I met Jay at a conference. I would have never
I was never a KW agent, by the way, but the KW.
I wasn't either at that time. That's what's so amazing is that we're both in Austin. We meet at a piggyback event over here, and neither one of us were with KW.
Right.
So, I mean, but that's why you go to conferences. You get in the right room with the right people, and you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Right. No doubt. I think, and I wish this upon everybody. I wish everyone would have the success of going to events or trading your money for being in the room and learning something and going back and then trying that and it working. I had things that didn't work and I just ignored those. I didn't stop investing in because I didn't have anything else to do. There was no other way. Somebody's got to know how to do this. People are doing it. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. I went to Toronto, which I'd never been to Canada before. I was probably 20 years old. And at this time I was probably doing 70 deals. I'm sitting next to a guy for 2 or 3 days and he gets up to the microphone. I didn't even talk to this particular gentleman. And he's like, yeah, I sold 400 homes last year. And I'm like, what? That wasn't even a number that in my mind that I thought was possible.
Yeah, like 70 to 400. That's mind boggling. How did they work so many hours?
Right. Yeah. It was like the things weren't computing in my head. Like it just seemed incredible to me. And so, but then I was like, well, that's doable somehow. So, if somebody did doable, then, there's something I can learn here. And so, I went to, this was a Craig Proctor event. I remember they were selling coaching. I remember it was $12,000. I remember telling the guy, Steve Garton, the guy I met from Florida that was sitting right next to me, that I thought that they were crazy. Are they out of their mind? And then before it was all said and done, I was at the back of the room giving them 2 credit cards because I knew I couldn't put the first payment on just one of those individually. So I was like, hey, you might want to hang on to both these credit card numbers because you might need them. And I bought coaching and it was super helpful. Right. And I had a big aha during that first year of coaching, which was, I was already having success, but I still didn't know anything. I kind of like to always start most conversations. I don't know anything about anything. It's assume that when you're talking to me, because generally speaking, that's sometimes the case. And at that time, it certainly was the case. And I remember telling them that, hey, this ain't working. The leads are not, these leads aren't any good. I said that, everybody says
Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross.
These leads suck. We're the good
the leads are bad. The leads are bad. Yeah.
And he said, no, it's not. It was the coach's name was Frank DeMarinis. And he's like, no, it's not that. He's like, you're not following the script. I was like, yeah, I am. So he made me record my calls with this thing with a little tape recorder and a thing that plugged into the phone. And I recorded the calls and we went over them together. And he's like, you didn't follow the script. I was like, yeah, I did. So we played it again, and sure enough, I changed it up, making it my little stat to it or whatever. And I remember, and he said, follow the script, do it exactly like it says, don't change it, and let's talk next week. And I'll be darned if I didn't start setting appointments with it. And for me, it was just an aha moment where I was like, man, I was this close to missing out because I was so excited now because I set these appointments. Like, this is amazing, right? Like, I'm a raving fan all of a sudden. And I was like real close to, trying to cancel and weasel out of my agreement if I could, because I was broke. And it really was just, me needing to be a better student. And that helped me to recognize that, hey man, if somebody says something works and there's a whole lot of other people that it's working for and it's not working for me, it's probably me, right? Like, it's probably something I'm doing. And so that little framework helped me as I made decisions and as I tried things and I tried to become I call it being a better copycatter. We used to jokingly, me and Mike Reese, when we find ideas, hey, copycatter number 1, this is copycatter number 2, over. And, we find something good.
Be copycatter number 3. So
yeah, right. It was fun, man. I mean, but, it's really modeling success. I mean, the principal, Jay Abraham, used to get mad at me when I'd say that because he didn't think it was funny, because he's like, you're you're just devaluing the principle of what it is you're doing. I'm like, okay, you're right. So we're modeling success over here. But we just found, that was, it was way easier to just find someone who's doing what you're trying to do and just do with that, and then to try to figure it out on your own. And so
what drove you to conferences? Like so we've already gave 3 really powerful reasons to go to events. One is who you meet.
Yeah.
Number 2 is to see what's possible. All of a sudden you're like 70, man, I'm working hard. This is great. And then you hear about 400. And the biggest ahas for me were the Star Power events for that. Yep. I mean, I would go there and I was like, I thought I was the cock of the walk with doing 87 transactions. And then, somebody's up on stage that sold 477. And it's just like, what? Right. So that's what's possible. Then you're like, oh, that's how. And then you're like, well, they're kind of dorky. Or they're like, they're not as smart as me. I've never said that, by the way, but it's kind of like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. You definitely get that sense. And then the third one,
go ahead, say the third one.
The third one is sometimes it comes down to you learning one word difference, like the one word. And an example that Toral gives me a lot is at my conference, I would be talking and stuff like that. Well, she had been trying to get people to work with her on her events, like sponsors and vendors. She was saying, "Hey, do you want to sponsor my event?" And, "Hey, do you want to be a vendor at my event?" And I would say, don't use those words. Use the word partner, right? Do you want to partner on this event with me? Well, she went back and she started using the word partner. And in her very first vendor event where she was signing on partners, and she called it a partner event instead of a vendor event. Well, guess what? She got $22,500 for her events for the entire next year, simply because it was a partnership mentality instead of, I mean, vendors sponsor stuff all the time and they get nothing back. They get nothing from it. And, it's usually give money and you hope for a return. Whereas a partner, it's like, no, we're partners in these events and we're both going to get leads. So, you can learn one word, like you were talking about with your script, right? It's like, yeah, I think I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm asking
one
for
little
sponsoring.
nuance, this one little thing you were missing and you just didn't see it. And it's like, you can't see the label from inside the jar, right?
Yeah.
But you have to have, be around someone else that can see, like a coach that can see your golf swing, where you can't see how bad it is until somebody videos it. But yeah, man, those are certainly powerful, all things I've experienced. And I think, the benefit of going to the Coldwell Banker event, and there were so many little sessions, and there was just so much, right? Like you can't go and not learn something that you kind of believe is going to work, right? And so I would find little things like that. And I sat in, there's nobody that's in this industry that I didn't buy their stuff. David Knox, I mean, Jim Puglisi. I'm just thinking of these old names of people that Bill Barrett, I think, sold some stuff on. I got all the stuff on
for sure. Bill Barrett Mastermind, buddy. Right? We'd all get together and share our best idea over 3 minutes. Invested.
So I had found early on that people knew things I didn't know, and that if I could learn from them, that if I have to get in the room, get to the event, whatever. And the first time I ever went to an event that wasn't like a Coldwell Banker event or one of these local things that came to me, was Craig Proctor. And I think I bought whatever it was, the original thing was, I don't know, $300, $500, $600. And it sat under my desk. And then I just kept getting this weekly call, get to the event, get to the event, get to the event. And I'm like, fine, I'm going. I couldn't afford to go. Didn't even know how to get into Canada, and so I went and I came back and, I had a page, I have multiple pages, but, synthesized down to, what are you going to do in the next 90 days? What are you doing in the next 60 days? What are you doing in the next 30 days? And, of course I didn't get through that entire list by the time the next event rolls around. So I'm going back. And, but I did, I came back and I tried everything. Right. And some things would work, some things wouldn't. Having the coach helped me with my own, me not seeing what, where I was not following the process. And many of those things didn't work. And the one or two things that did really worked. Right. So, that kind of, I shifted to becoming more of a marketer because of Proctor's event. And studying marketing, I had grinded my way to, 100 plus deals. And I'll never forget the first, ad that I ran. I was on an appointment. I come back in the office and 2 people had called me and wanted to list their houses that I didn't know who they were. And they weren't referrals. And I was like, what? That's way better than hitting the expires list. Like, I do more of that. Right. And so that was, those little ahas all came from events, people that I met, especially as things got more complex with the business. I remember sitting outside of one of those events, and it was one of the Proctor events. And I was sitting outside the event, and a bunch of the guys that all sold more than me, and I was doing a couple hundred deals at the time, and they were talking about how they didn't go to closings, and I was like, "What? How do you like?" There's no, and I'm like, "Man, I'm doing almost a closing every day. I go to it's like a couple hours of my day every day," and there wasn't a process in my mind where I could not be there with my client. And they all shared with me their process. And I was like, well, that seems like that would work. And it did, and so, I go back and I save, 50 hours a month, back in my life. And so there's
and then inspections, right?
Right. Inspections.
Learn about not going to inspections and not only not go to inspections, but you shouldn't go to inspections because of the lawsuits and the fact that, the inspector is the representative, not the agent at an inspections. Just if you don't go to inspections, you don't go to closings. look at how much time you get back when that happens. And honestly, are you really of value when you're there other than just being a loving, personality?
Right. Yeah, it's, and it's funny because you tell yourself this story of like, well, for me, this is just what I do for my clients,
That's right. Above and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. And you can create the same emotional experience for your clients and you not have to actually physically be there. And that was what I had to get my head around in order for me to buy into it. Now, if I was doing 3 deals a month or 2 deals a month, I would be at all those things. But at the scale that I was at, it was it was either work 14, 16 hours a day or you got to figure out some things you can get off your plate. And just so those are little things that moved big, they little hinges that swung big doors for me in terms of my ability to continue to grow. And they all happened at events. I jokingly say this, but like the people in my office, as nice as they were when I got in the business, go Jay, young Jay's gonna make it. They never shared their best ideas with me. They thought they still thought of me as competition. They were never going to share the biggest things that were working.
That's right.
And so, I had to get in the room with other people and actually kind of untangle, the whirlwind of, being in the business every single day and unwind and actually sit in a room and like, really consume something. And you leave there very inspired. And I think that's, inspiration is a big deal. And, when you see, the belief goes way up when you see, okay, all of these people are saying that they're doing this and it's working, and I'm not doing it, and I'm excited because when I go back, I'm doing this, right? And that's so that carries for a lot longer when you've had that experience and that it works because you've seen the evidence of it. And you're not just on an hour webinar or whatever. You're a total immersion, and you're having conversations with people, and you're like, holy cow, you did what? And so, yeah, I think that it inspires confidence in your ability to do it because you meet people that, that are out there doing it, and in some cases, you're like, oh, they don't seem any different than me. If they can do it, I could probably do it.
Exactly. Well, here's what's funny. You just hit 4 more reasons people, and what drives us to go to conferences. It's not just one thing. It's not just to learn something. In many cases, it's others. Like one is it's a great time to reflect. It's you get out of your marketplace, you get out of your nose to grindstone and all of the things. Like even when you're working from home, you've got laundry there, you've got kids, maybe you've got, and you're very narrow focused, but you get out of town, it gives you a chance to kind of go helicopter level, 10,000 feet above your business and honestly above your life and figure out for yourself like which direction you want to go, what kind of things you want to do. It gives you clarity. And then another thing is it gives you a chance to totally immerse yourself into working on your business instead of working in your business. And boy, wouldn't it be great if we had more time to work on our business? And then the other 2 that you hit that I think are so powerful is the inspiration and energy. It is an energy. People think, man, I don't want to go. I don't know if I want to go. I will tell you, I just went to the Model Investor Alliance event in Dallas and it was like another freaking flight. And do I want to go? And I don't really, and I'm an introvert. And you know what? I'm doing okay for myself right now. I don't want to go. And then I went and it was freaking awesome. I got so much energy. I got a chance to kind of like, what do I really want to do? And I learned a lot about multifamily investing. But it's an energy bump. I got the energy bump from going to that conference. And then it's that one that I think is so important, especially for somebody that's doing less than 36 transactions a year. Come to Referral Mastery Summit because it's going to lead to belief and conquering fear. And you're going to see a lot of evidence in the room that it will work in your market because all these other people are saying it works in their market. And I think those 4 points are huge that you just made on what drives us to go to conference. And by the way, I don't want to bury the lead on this either, though we're 30 some minutes into this, is Jay is speaking at Referral Mastery Summit. And some of you just signed up just because of that. So we're glad to have him. He's going to come down and rock your world a little bit. And, our theme of Referral Mastery Summit 25 is unleash your superpower. and it's superheroes. And, Jay has been one of those superheroes for me, and somebody that definitely has the superpower of implementation. Like you talk about the copycat, you and Reese, and there's two things I really think about you. It's implementation and it's partnership, right? So you've been great partners with Michael in ups, downs, and everything that went there, right? And then also with that, you're just you're an implementation master of implementation. You get stuff done. You come back and you just do it. You don't think about it too much. You don't question it too much. You just like do it. And then if it doesn't work, then okay, it doesn't work. But you find a lot of things that do work in the things that don't work. So,
yep, that's been, there's not a lot of brilliance in my story, guys. Like, it's been very, if you break it down to like principally, so what you're saying, you basically found people that were successful and you just copied what they did and that works for you. You're successful. Good job. It's like, maybe it is brilliant, but it doesn't seem that brilliant. And so, it's so true. Getting to events has been, what you said too is there's so many, we talk ourselves out of going to events all the time. And I'm too busy. I can't do it right now, and all of this, so that self-talk. And every single time I've done that and I've tried to like weasel out of going something I've already maybe invested in, or I was trying, to convince myself I didn't need to. Every time I go, it's like, man, this is why I go to events. That is exactly, and there was always those big ahas that like, man, if I hadn't been here, I wouldn't have got that, and
that's
so
right.
It's such a, and I probably attend more events than the average bear. So, I just attended an event. It just happened to me. A guy called me and said, you want to do this mastermind? And I was like, and I just had an experience where I took the jet and picked up a couple of buddies that were there at the MIA. And long story short, the relationship with South, who I had just met because I picked him up in the jet, more than paid for the cost of the jet and the trip and everything.
Tell the story. I think you got to tell the story about the car, right?
Crazy,
about your car.
Like there's so many crazy stories like this, and it all comes back to events and being willing to, to invest in yourself. And this was, I've got this jet. I've partners on this jet. I don't use it that much because I'm in Puerto Rico. I was in Puerto Rico. I'm back in Texas now. But it just didn't make sense to use it a lot because we dead leg it back and forth, one way or the other. And so I said, man, I'm going to go pick up Ryan because Ryan's a longtime friend of mine. Killer, used to do like 1,500 transactions, and he's a really smart guy.
Just joined EXP with you. Yeah. We can say it, right?
His wife did. He still has his
oh, really? Okay. I thought they both joined. Yeah.
But no. So, and that's a crazy story in and of itself because, Chantel sells, 1,500 homes a year herself. And then she's married to Ryan Finch, who sells 1,500 homes a year, and they go home and what do they talk about? Not real estate,
right? So, hopefully,
fascinating people.
I met them both at a conference, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Same here. Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Lifelong relationships that you form at these events, and so I went and picked him up, and we met Seth. He's like, "Can we pick up Seth?" And I picked him up in Sarasota, then we flew to Fort Lauderdale, picked up Seth. And, in the airplane, it was, shutdown mode, phones don't work, and we're just talking mastermind, really, like not intentional, but it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Where were you? What's next? How's this working for you? What do you think? And then, just was a really, really good conversation and inspiring conversation. At lunch, I got a bill I had hit a curb. I don't like to say wrecked, but I did definitely destroy 2 rims on my Rolls Royce. And I got the bill from Rolls Royce, and it was $28,000. And that was the bid, actually. They hadn't started work; it just got there, and they sent me the bid. I'm like, what? Like I was blown away. And Soth owns a huge company that buys and leases exotic cars all across the country, and he flips them, buys them, sells, turns them. And makes a ton of my kid's 28 years old, brilliant, and just fascinating guy.
He turns exotic cars.
Yeah, flips exotic.
Yeah, flips them. What a great concept.
And you can invest with them. I learned that too. I didn't know you can invest with them, and he turns them over about every 60 days. But it's a business, and he's just plugged in. He's got all the right relationships, and he explained it all to me. I was like, man, that's got to be fun. Because he's got a ton of exotics at his house. And so he said, man, send your car to Miami and my guy will do it. He said that should be less than 10 grand because he knew what it cost when you bust a rim on a Rolls Royce because he leases them and all that kind of stuff. And so sure enough, then I started thinking about it. I was like, man, that one relationship was worth more than the cost of the jet, which is usually the reason I don't take it somewhere.
Right.
I'm like, I'm not leveraging that enough. Like that one relationship was more valuable than that. And so, because of, that experience we all had together, and we're like, we got to do more of this. So like, and Ryan had signed up for a mastermind. He said, you want to go? I said, sure. Where is it? It's like, we're taking a jet. It's called the Jet Mastermind. And we're taking a jet to Utah to go see Sean Whalen speak. And now we're in with a much bigger jet than mine, by the way, way and much nicer and way more expensive as well. But it's with people that are doing $100 million exits in their companies and just way bigger than. I mean, I was the smallest guy in the room, so like on the whole jet probably, and I was like, wow. Like, this is amazing. These people are amazing. Their experiences and the things that kind of getting to see around the corner for things that I'm doing. I'm like, wow, this has been fantastic. But I went to this, Sean Whalen event, and Sean Whalen's the guy that has the Lions Not Sheep brand and all that. If some people know him, he's great dude too. Just being in the room, meeting all the people, there was tons of opportunities that came up, a lot of clarity on direction and some of the things that just kind of line up with, I thought that, but I wasn't sure, but that confirmed it, and so little things like that. But it was a fascinating experience, and it really inspired me because these guys are all doing big things, and I'm like over here not doing bigger things than them, and so I'm like, well, what am I doing with my life? And I got to get back. Wow. I got to buckle down and go bigger. And so
you went to an event to find out how to go to the next level.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And maybe the level you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, and the truth is, to be honest, Michael, I had not been going to a lot of events prior to that. Being in Puerto Rico for 4 years, I went to very little events the first 2 years, if none. I might not have gone to any. And then the tail end of that, knowing I was coming back, I started going to Grant Cardone's events. And so I did 2 or 3 of those. So, that's still probably a lot of events for most people. But for me, that's not an average. I probably average 1.5 events a month, right? Like, at least. And so, but that one really was the catalyst to, just really inspiring me to want to do more, not just be okay with where I was or comfortable where I was.
Right.
And it's like, if you can do more and you're capable of doing more, why would you want to live mediocre if you know what greatness looks like? And so I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so it was great, man, but very inspiring. But yeah, in my life when I'm not, and I watched Michael Reese go to, he started going to AI events, and he's like, boom, boom, boom. He's just learning. And he come back and show me stuff. And I'm like, God, Lee, like, that's incredible.
Mind blowing.
Right. And so, Mike's always pushing me to do something I don't want to do. We both did the cold plunge this morning. We were the only ones at Lifetime Fitness because it snowed here. I felt like my fingers and toes got smashed with a hammer. But, he's always pushing me, to make,
you're supposed to wear boots and not put your hands in, right? So
well, that's it. That's in the what's it called? The cryo. Well,
or the cold plunge.
Well, probably so, because I literally thought my fingers were going to fall off. And, it was the coldest I've ever been. I just jumped in my own.
I have a machine in my house.
Do you really?
Oh yeah. You're supposed to have gloves and boots for your toes, just for future reference. I want you to keep those.
Yep.
So
it did not feel safe after I got out. The pain was lasted a little bit longer than I thought it was supposed to.
Yeah.
But I feel great today, though. So
it is great for recovery. It is. All right. And I think another great thing that you bring up is, if you're uncomfortable in your business, you're probably already signed up for a Referral Mastery Summit. But the person that maybe we're talking to right now is that person that is way comfortable. Like I am comfortable in my business. And it is interesting is that, man, we had quite a few signups in 2024 of realtors coming to our conference because the world did get a little uncomfortable for them.
Oh yeah.
And now they're actually open to learning. So
100%.
So welcome to all those, but it's like, hey, listen, if you're comfortable, you do 40 a year, 40 transactions a year. And you're like, man, if you haven't been to a conference in a while, I want to invite people to come to Referral Mastery Summit and just see what happens. Just let it, I am a similar way. I kind of got a little bit comfortable because I have a lot to implement still. So I'm like, man, I don't know. I got a lot to implement. Do I want to go learn more to implement? And every time I think that way, then I go and it's like, oh, well, I just narrowed down the 3 things I need to implement.
Right.
So it's very focusing and gives
you come back with
clarity.
clarity. I think that's it's so easy to get overwhelmed. Like I think you're more likely to die of indigestion in real estate than of starvation because there's so many things you can do and it's kind of overwhelming. And I do want to commend because you're right. The people that have experienced the things that I was doing before are no longer enough and not working. That's largely due to the market that we've experienced the last 2 years. And you have to shift and change. And that's, and I commend those people that know that and are now uncomfortable because you're about to get really excited about the next couple of years because it's going to be a life changer for you. So kudos to you for making that decision. But yeah, if you're comfortable, the worst thing about being comfortable is when things do stop working or when something does shift and change and you weren't on that cutting edge of continuing to learn and grow and you take a setback you weren't ready for. And so that's always be on the edge of learning and growing and don't assume that it's like I think there was a book called the something paradox and they were talking about Steve Jobs always fear of that someone was coming, it's that productive
Paranoia,
right? Somebody's coming, something's going to change, something they're going to, and that happens in this industry. If you're paying for Zillow and then not anymore, can't have it. We're going to this person. So like things can be taken away. So you want to build a business, and I believe wholeheartedly in your business model, Michael, is around building a referral based business. That's when you have relationships that fuel your business and people that will run through red lights to refer you, that's hard to take that away from someone. And so it's building a really strong foundation for anything that you want to do. So big fan.
Is the world making it easier for us or harder for us? And if you're doing cold calling, they just keep making it harder for you. And now we have the TCPA, right? We had do not call before. There's places with do not knock, so you can't door knock. They're making regulations and they're putting up barriers but over here in the sphere world and the referral world, they're actually inventing things to make it easier for us to do that.
Right.
They're the social media was essentially invented, and now it's easier to build relationships, easier to make an impact, easier to build a relationship than ever before. So,
I'll tell you, I would give you one thing if you haven't seen it yet. So Jeff Kiani, who's worked with me for years, I've been having him kind of on some projects around, the really more around the development and this apartments and investing in apartments and whatnot. And we have AIJ. If you haven't met AIJ, go to my Instagram at jkinder82. And AIJ is kind of like an alter ego, but the way that we're doing it with AI is we're not trying to pretend like it's me. It's just the AI version of me, but he's way smarter than me because he says everything perfectly. It's amazing. But it's so it's funny. It's pretty funny when you watch it because I'm not trying to make you think it's not AI, but it's right. Still getting the message across, and it's leverage for me because it's doing it's getting posted, and I didn't have to do anything. And so pretty
now
funny.
Where is this? Where can I go see it?
It's on my Instagram. He just posted one yesterday about OU versus Texas, and it was so brilliantly put together. I was like, that is so funny. But at the same time, it's getting the message across. And I get more messages about AIJ than anything. Like people think it's funny, but it's a good way to do it because AI, it isn't you, and it's disingenuous to try to pretend like it is. In most cases,
that's right. Those are the worst, right? Don't lose your voice to AI. People want to hear from you. They want it to be you. That's right. So don't, and that's what I say is never take something from AI and post it in social media without saying it's AI. Right.
Yeah. And even so I never thought about it this way, but the JAI introduces himself as I'm JAI. Jay's probably out busy doing this or that or the other, but I wanted to, and so it comes across, as the message, it kind of sounds like me anyways, but they feel like it's me, but they know it's not me. And so it's pretty interesting. But like you're saying, I think, that there's so many ways now that are helping us stay connected and leverage relationships and stay in front of people and do things that were otherwise sometimes difficult time-wise in order for us to do. And that's, it is making that side of the business, much, much easier where the rest of the things are getting harder for sure.
Yeah. Even look at Zoom. Right. Zoom is a relationship builder. All of these things are put in place for us to build relationships better instead of making life harder, like do not call, TCPA, and all the regulations around cold calling and door knocking and that kind of thing. So I love it. Real quickly, everyone, this is a good opportunity for you to go check out rms25.com. We'd love to have you at Referral Mastery Summit. Use the code podcast, PODCAST. Just type in podcast. You'll get a friendly little coupon code there to make that a little more palatable, make it easier for you to attend. Jay is speaking. He's going to come down and give us some time, and that's going to be awesome. We also have 42 other speakers who are coming down and going to share their referral secrets with you. If you want more referrals, listen, come to Referral Mastery Summit. Check it out at rms25.com. Jay, any final words of wisdom from you? Listen, we got to have you back again and talk about like other things, systems, processes, strategies, how to implement better. There's a million things that we could, how to retain, how to attract 2,000 people to your downline. And so, and retention as well. Yeah. Like there's a million things that you're super uber talented in. Today, we really focused on the conference aspects, but final words of wisdom on somebody who's maybe, sitting there and they're kind of considering, they're really comfortable at home doing Zooms, or they're maybe contemplating an event. What would you give them as words of wisdom?
Yeah. I think, don't overthink it, right? Like if everything that we've said makes sense, there's on the side of your shoulder, there's, the one side of you that's saying, no, you don't do it. You can't do it. You don't have the time. It won't work for you anyways. Right. Like just squash that by just make the decision. That's been super helpful for me. It creates momentum. Making decisions, is the key to success in anything. Make the decision and then figure out how you're going to make it happen. And you're going to get here. And whatever things have to get solved. Like, I try to teach my wife this all the time. My wife is a consummate overthinker, right? So there's no way things are going to happen, but I try to force her to just say, make the decision and let's work backwards from there. There
you go. Right.
What about just this? What about that? What about this? All those things can be solved. Once you decide to go, we don't need to talk about it until you decide to go. Let's just go to the event. And that's how I got her to go to 10X in Vegas. And so we're going to Grant Cardone's final 10X. So, so I'm excited for her to be able to go and we had to solve a whole lot of problems for that to happen, but that's how you do it. But I would say
you're the one to jump out of a plane and build your parachute on the way down. She's the one that would spend all of her time building the parachute and then never get on the plane. Right. 100%. So there's this happy medium between like, let her build the parachute and then you guys both jump. I try to solve things with just a lot of logic, right? So like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm out X amount of dollars and a flight and this and that. So the worst case scenario is I go, I learn nothing, and I'm going to be out X number of dollars. What's the best thing that could happen? And then, wow, okay, the trade-off is, and then if I commit to, whatever I do, I'm going to at least get this much out of it. And, now I'm not losing, and, you get to go to Atlanta, you meet some people, you might have relationships that change your life. Certainly something's going to happen at this event that's going to be the biggest aha that you've had in your career. Like, that's just what happens. And so you just got to commit, make the commitment, we can't help you until you commit, but once you commit, we're not going to let you fail. So I'd love to see you there. And I've got some great stuff I'm going to share. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. That probably very few people have heard me share. In fact, the people that have heard me share this, it was in 2010, the very first time I shared it. And we had a video back then, but it wasn't a very good one. So we got lost it somewhere along the way. And every year someone's like, hey man, where's that video you did about this? And so I'm pretty cool. It is simple, super simple. Anybody can do, and everybody's gonna be like, "That's freaking awesome." So so I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to seeing you and supporting you and helping the people that are in your community and just make a difference in people's lives. So looking forward to seeing you, my friend. Awesome, you too. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, and as always, I want to thank you. Right. Now it's just like, hey, thanks so much for being a guest here. And thanks for coming to RMS. I know it hasn't happened yet, but I really appreciate you committing to make that happen and making that happen. So thank you for being our guest here on Referrals Podcast.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me, my friend. Have a great day. Look forward to seeing everybody there.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you, did I not say in the beginning that this was going to be another amazing episode of Referrals Podcast? Right now, you've got a page full of notes. just like I do, and you are sitting there with 3 or 4 things that you can put into play, just like every single one of our Referrals podcast episodes. And hey, listen, do us a favor. If you liked what you heard today, like it, subscribe it, make sure you share it, make sure you download the podcast on a daily basis. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/getreferrals. If you want to get referrals, get on Referrals podcast. And last but not least, hey, listen, RMS25.com. It's our last Referral Mastery Summit. We want you to be there. Make sure you're there. You can hear what direction we're going and maybe get involved with what we're doing with those things. But the bottom line is we appreciate you here at Referrals Podcast. We always appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching for those that watch on YouTube, and we appreciate you sharing. That's one of the fastest ways that Referral Podcast has grown over the years, is you sharing it and referring it with others. So thank you for doing that. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen, I know what the next podcast is about, and you will want to make sure you're subscribed, because that one is almost as good as this one. I'm just telling you that another mind-boggling episode is coming next. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you then. Have a great one.